All right, so today I'm going to be installing the high pressure fuel pump piston upgrade kit from 034 Motorsports. Now there are a few things that you will need for this, and just for reference, this is going on my 2016 Audi A4 with the 2-liter turbo in it. Now getting to tools that you will need, you will need a specialty tool. I know that there is one from 034 Motorsports. That's the one that I got. Now that's for a retaining nut that is on the inside of the high pressure fuel pump that you will need to remove in order to install the actual piston and get the old sleeve out. So other things that you'll need. Now with my tool, I did need a 24mm socket in order to use that. You will need a 17mm wrench to get a hard fuel line off, a flathead screwdriver, a T30 Torx bit, and then an M9 triple square. Another thing I would recommend is a vice clamp with a rag for when you actually take the fuel pump out of the car. Now moving over to the actual engine. So like I said, this is the 2-liter turbo from Audi, and it is the flex fuel model, as you can see by the manifold. But right back there is the high pressure fuel pump, and we will be removing that, as well as this fuel line that actually runs from the end of the high pressure fuel pump. This line, which I might just unclip from their little clips here, and it pulls it back. This sensor sitting on top of the high pressure fuel pump, and there's another sensor down here. And all this is just to get some clearance down into there so that we can actually remove it. Now, one thing I would recommend, get any old dirty shop rag, and I would stuff it down underneath the high pressure fuel pump there. And that's just to make sure that any extra fuel that's still in there doesn't come out and starts leaking all over your engine. Then I'm just gonna grab my flathead, and with these sensors, both of them are extremely easy. All you'll do is apply pressure right onto the clamps there and there, and those should just click and you'll be able to pop them right off. After that, with my high pressure fuel pump line here, I have a different kind of clamp than factory because the old one blew off and broke. So as far as those goes, you can just go grab a needle nose plier and you just pull both of those together and you should be able to slide it off. And once you have both those sensors off, I would just go ahead and start removing this line down here first, as that will free up more space down there. One thing to get a little bit more room, like I said, I'm just gonna pop this line out of a few of these, as it is a pretty big line and it is flexible. So then you can move it around a good bit, get some more wiggle room. And then from there, I'm just going to loosen this as much as possible. And now that is very loose. And all I would do is give that a good couple tugs. You might need some pliers. I know I've gotten this off without it. So, as I mentioned before, put that rag under before you do this, as there will be fuel that leaks out from that high pressure fuel pump. So as you can see, there's that nipple. You can still see fuel coming out. A good amount came out. Now next thing you can do is both these sensors here, they're both connected to the same line. So all you'll do is come under here, and as long as everything doesn't get snagged, you should be able to just pull those right out the back here, tuck them down. And then this line, I'm just gonna take it, wrap it back here a little bit. Now, unfortunately, there is a hard line here, and that is pretty solid but we will be removing that T30 Torx bit right there. And that gives it a little bit more flex. Now it's not much, but it's enough to gain access to actually removing this. So we'll do that next. All right, so I have that T30 out now. It just gives it a little bit more wiggle room in order to actually get the pump out. So the next thing you're going to be doing is removing, you can see there's the M9 I was talking about, and there's another one right there. That's on the underside. And then also you can see right there, that's the 17mm crescent wrench hard line that you need to remove. So first thing is removing that hard line. You'll be able to just pull that down after getting it loose. Now, they definitely did not design this as you have to flip it back and forth in order to actually get enough clearance to turn it. Hardly anything, but do this, you'll be able to get it off in no time. All right, now you can tell when that's off by that nut right there will just drop right down, and you'll be able to see the different metals touching each other. So you can just pull that down once you need. Next up, we're going to be removing both those M9s like I was talking about, one right there, and then there is another right there in the back. All right, so I've got fuel line off now, both sensors disconnected, that fuel line taken off, top one popped out, that T30 taken out. So now we're gonna move on to both of those M9s. Now I have struggled with this M9 up here because I'll show you real quick. There it is. So one thing is you can just barely get that on there. Apparently that's a little bit loose already. I didn't do that. So, but usually the M9, for my bit at least, bumps into the wall of the high pressure fuel pump and then also has clearance because of this little plastic nub here. But as you can see, apparently that was hand tight. I don't like that very much, because I did already remove this once, and then I realized that, as shown before, I did not have the specialty tool. So I had to put it all back together in order to drive the car still. But once we get the high pressure fuel pump out, this will come into play. But for now, let's get both of those out. So for this next one, like I said before, it's right down there, right to the right of that hard line. I wish this would focus, but I'm just gonna throw it on my impact there and get that out of there. So now that I have both of those uninstalled, as soon as you get the second one off, you'll see it pops right out, seal there, because that is under pressure from the spring. Now what I would do is just move a good bit of this stuff out of the way as much as possible, and that should just pop right out, and you should be able to wiggle it out of there. So I go down as we've cleared enough space to actually get it out from there. And nothing should fall out, as there is a retaining clip on the end of that spring. So that'll hold the piston, spring, everything in there. So as you can see, I will get this in my vise and show you what you need to do from here. So I've got it on my workbench now. From here, we're gonna get our vise. I'm sure that there's other ways you can do it. The vise is probably the best bet. I bought this vise simply because I didn't want to have to clamp this down to a table. with some sort of clamp. But just undo your vise, take that rag, put it in there. This is just to protect it. And then what we'll do, take the high pressure fuel pump, set it right in there and close it on it. All right, and here is where that specialty tool comes into use. So you'll see one notch here and right on the other side, the other notch. So that is that clip that you need to get off. Now first, you do need to find a way to press this down and then actually slide that off without damaging anything. So I'm just gonna use the flathead again, be able to compress that, pull that off, and everything should just come right off. So I got that off. Next, that'll just come right off. And with this, you should be able to just pull it right out. Here's the old one. So from here, this is where that specialty tool, as I said, will come into use. So that'll just go right over top, like so. You'll grab your 24, that slips right on top. And this is a 1/2-inch drive. So unfortunately, the only thing I have for 1/2-inch is my massive breaker bar. So, or torque wrench, I should say, not breaker bar. So I'm gonna bust that out, and that should do just perfectly, because I have heard that these are quite tight. So I'm gonna get that off real quick. So as I said before, that was pretty torqued on there. So check your contacts, make sure. Mine look pretty good. But I did get that off, and then this should just slide right off. There's a little dimple on the back and an indent on the actual body. And then this piece here, now this will be hard to get out. Be careful with it. This is the upper sleeve to the piston assembly. So that you'll want to take out. And then the lower sleeve is this bit right here. Now I can actually grab it, and this might be frowned upon, but I'm just going to gently, they say to do it with a magnet. Unfortunately, I don't have one. Gently grab that, just pull it out, set it right there. So from here, this is where I'm actually going to grab the new upgraded piston. All right, so next up, you'll need all the new stuff from 034 Motorsports and that upper sleeve. As well as, I will link down below the install guide from 03 Motorsports and the instructions. So what you're gonna wanna do, you'll take this lower sleeve from 034 and drop it right back where that other one was. We'll take the piston, being very straight with it, go all the way down there. Then your upper sleeve again, you'll just take that and 1, 2, and then all the way down. There is a rubber gasket on there that will help the seal. So from here, what you're gonna do, get your guide back on. It goes right in that dimple, as said before. And then you're gonna grab your old nut and the tool again and get it started on there. So we'll go down right to there. All right, so I got that torqued back on there. And once again, just make sure to double check all your seals and everything. Everything looks good. So from here, you are just going to install the spring again. And this part will definitely be tricky. I'm not going to be able to film this, but you have to get this back on there and retaining underneath the piston. So it needs to be compressed, and that just slips right under it. Unfortunately, I just dropped it. So as you can see, I've got new piston and the old spring and retainer on there again. So that's all good. And from here, you can take it out of the vise and head back over to the car. All right, so now that we've got it all rebuilt, all you want to do is stick this back up through the bottom, sensor side up, the nipple down there. So it'll just sit just like that. And it's gonna have tension in there because of the spring and might be a little bit difficult to get on there at start. But once you get one of the threads started, try and get it down just a little bit and then get the other one started. And just slowly compress them both. All right, so as you can see, I got this side started and the other side started. Like I said, you're just gonna wanna put it on and slowly tighten down one side and then get the other side and go back and forth. All right, so I've got those both tightened down. Next step would be coming back down under here and getting that hard line back on. Now I've had a lot of issues with this in the past because it doesn't like to actually seat. But if anybody has any recommendations for that, leave them down in the comments, because this is the third time now that I've had to disconnect this line in particular. And I mean, honestly, all the hard lines on this car are extremely difficult to get on and off. But if there are any recommendations, please let me know. Once you do successfully have that seated on there again, you're going to have to do the flipping maneuver of the wrench again. So, got that fuel line back on there. Next up, it's just plugging everything back in, and there you go. So, gonna get that hooked back up. Cannot forget to tighten that. This line can just go back into its 3 clamp areas. And last one is right over here. There's that. And then probably should do this first. Fortunately, I kind of forgot. But then these, you can just feed one up at a time. Both of them need to come through both of the fuel lines. This guy can just go right there. And this one, just like that. And there you have it. Everything back together. And the new high pressure fuel pump piston. So then the next thing you're gonna want to do is come over to your door. You're just gonna open this. You can hear the fuel pump get primed. And you can come under here and just look around, double check everything, make sure that there are no leaks anywhere, especially with this fuel line down here. You really don't want that leaking. And I look to be all clear, I do believe. Now you want to do that with the door multiple times. Otherwise the car will just keep turning over and over again. So I would recommend opening up the door and closing it over 5 times. And yeah, you should be good to start it up after that. And last but not least, want to get in, prime everything. You'll see it'll turn over because it's starved of fuel. Now let's check for leaks again. we got it all installed. So my main reason for doing this is I will be switching to E85 probably come January, and I'll be doing a custom tune with Ward Performance Tuning. So video will probably be coming out for that come January as well, as I do believe that's it as far as supporting mods for E85 so far, but future, who knows. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any tips, leave them down in the comments. But yeah,